Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Art of Creation show. I am your host, Rebecca Boswell, and today we continue our series on love, a very interesting topic that we've been poking at over the last several episodes and will continue to poke at today. And today we're going to be looking at it from a different perspective. Today we're going to be speaking with Bettina Madini, and she is going to talk with us on the topic of love and nature, bringing in the natural world. So Bettina is joining us as a creator of all kinds. She is an artist, a singer, founder of Wearable Art called Magical Bodies. She's also a best-selling author, having authored several different books, and she is a magical being, and we actually have already had her on the Art of Creation show. So if you would like to see that episode again, or maybe haven't seen it, the link to that episode will be in the show notes so you can see that again. But without further ado, we welcome our most amazing Bettina from, today you're in Costa Rica, right? Talk about natural beauty, natural wonder. What a perfect backdrop for you to come speak to us from.
Yes, thank you so much, Rebecca, for having me and for inviting me onto this beautiful show during the month of love. Yeah, so what is that? Love and nature and love. And I'm surrounded here by nature, a lot of nature, and they also fly in my face like all kinds of insects, and the birds are singing. And it is such an, how can I say this? It is such an untamed place, like where the ants might one day just walk through your house, and the big ants, and they actually clean out our houses here, and they find spider eggs and spider stuff and dead insects. And so I learned from the Costa Ricans to not kill these big ants, but what they do is when these ants are coming in and they are really like this big, they let them move through. So these ants will not bite you, they will not do anything, but they do a house cleaning. So, and it's interesting that I start my conversation here about that, which is for so many people, like, oh, ants, or snakes, or insects, or wow, like even the word dirt, which I don't use, I say soil, right? Or in German, we say earth, for what you call in the American language dirt. I have dirt on my feet. We don't say that. We actually say I have earth on my feet, which is like really cute, right?
Yeah.
It is that energy of like, or the space of receiving, where we don't exclude or we run away, but also what do our bodies know about it? It's like just yesterday, I have a Costa Rican friend here, and we had dinner together, and she told me what Costa Ricans do to keep ants away is they use the coffee grounds. After you make your beautiful coffee and you have the coffee grounds, they actually put like a line around the house, and so the ants will not cross that line. And I'm like, wow, this is amazing. Like what? And it's a natural thing. It's coffee. It's not like poison or something, but it's like working with nature. And how much loving is that? How much caring is that when we don't go to the place of, oh, I need to kill this? But are there ways that I can ask the snakes, or like being really strong and telling them, hey, if you come to my house, if you come in, if you come too close, I'm gonna be not so nice to you, and maybe, you know, you might not survive that. But it's like really this asking and being willing to be strong, and also maybe creating a habitat for the animals where they can be, because we are pretty much living in their space. They, like the species, have been here way before us, you know, like what was here before this house was built here was jungle, and they logged the trees. They created the space for the humans, for the gardens and all that. So what if we actually respected nature and creatures that are living here, that have been living here, or I just see my internet is not so good. Okay,
No,
now
we
it's
see you. I see you fine. And you know, in our last episode, we had Katerina Valentin on the show, and we were talking about this space that if you're going to use words to try to point at it, it's really a space where you have that judgment-free awareness. It's that place where there's a softness, where there's no right or wrong. It's just being, and then there's like an honoring, and there's a sense of shared space or communing, I guess, in a space or through the space. And what I hear you speaking about right now seems to sort of point at the same thing. It's like that place where the ants are not right, they're not wrong, they're not good, they're not bad. They're living their life and we're living our life. And the question is, okay, so what's the life that we can actually co-create? And where is the magic that we can sort of fluidly create together? And if it doesn't work that way, what are ways that we can still honor without having to tolerate, right? It's that thing of like, what's going to work for me, right? Choice creates. What are the different possibilities? What's going to work for me? And what if I can find something that works for me that doesn't mean that now the ant has no choice, right? Or that it's
exactly
against the ant. Yeah.
Or what habitat can I create where they still have space? Like, what if we don't approach the land with, oh, I own this, but what if I'm actually a guest on the land and I create with the beings and like all the animals, the birds, the insects. Wow, there's a beautiful black and white bird. Wow, amazing, pretty, wow, big. I haven't seen this before. I don't even know what that is. Just flying by. So sending you all
contributing.
And so right now it's raining, and so it's like the communication. Wow, I have so many thoughts. Okay, the communication with the land. Like, what if before we start building, we go to the land and we touch it with our feet and with our hands, and we say, "Hello, land. Hello, beautiful earth. I promise you I will take care of you. Let me know where I can put my dwelling, where is a good space for the garden, where, like, what if we don't insist upon, oh, this is the house, it has to go here, the garden has to be here, like square or whatever, and like without any question, but imposing, like, what if we don't do that, but we start this communication, which also includes receiving and the willingness to gift, the gift that we can be for the rocks, by honoring them, by acknowledging them. Like that, right now I'm looking at beautiful rocks. They, like, just think about it. There's a river here. These rocks, how old are they? And they are, to me, they are beings. They have a consciousness. They are from this beautiful planet, which I love so much. And the rain right now is just like, I've been asking for rain because it's dry down here. And when I see the plants and the trees like sort of starting to, oh, okay, then I'm asking for rain, and the rain is coming, right? And so that space, this is what I invite you all to. And what if we embrace it? And I'm really curious, what can we create from there?
Yeah. You know, one of the things that we've talked about a lot in all of these episodes in this season 9 in this series on love is that oftentimes the word love is used in all these different ways, and yet sometimes is used for things that actually are a judgment or an expectation or a point of view or something that actually doesn't have the energies of the space that maybe is more of what we're attempting to tap into when we talk about love. And you know, and so it's funny when we say like, oh, I love this. I was just thinking about in Hawaii, right? And when you go to Hawaii, they say, you know, don't take the lava rocks. leave them here, and that this is part of our island, this is where they belong. And but someone might come and be like, I love this rock, so I have to take this rock and bring it to the other side of the world. And I get it. I actually am a lover of rocks, so this is kind of a funny example, because I take rocks all the time, but it's that, or not so much anymore, but I always did, because it was this thing of like, I love you and I want to take you with me, and I want you to be mine forever. And how often do we do that with people, with possessions, and then also with nature, right? I love nature. I love this, I love that, but it excludes a lot. Like, I love to be in nature, but it has to look like a golf course, right? Or like, I love to be outside, but God forbid there are any bugs, or all these things where it's like, I love nature, but fill in the blank. And so what you're talking about is really sort of a fuller, more holistic sense of not just filtering through what we think we love, but actually allowing all of it to come in, and all of it to touch us and our experience with and on the planet. So for people who maybe don't feel like they have a connection or a communion or any even starting point with nature, where do we begin with that? How do we start to tap into what's possible and the joy that nature and the earth has to offer?
Well, one thing could be find a tree that is maybe growing next to your house, or some tree in a park that is sort of calling to you, or you have always loved it, or maybe right now it's blooming, or maybe right now it's totally bare and you can see the bark. You can go to a tree and just touch it, and just ask the tree to show you what that space is. Maybe even show you more about you, or just lower your barriers and touch the tree and close your eyes for a moment and just get a sense of that space of the tree, the gift of the tree, and send it gratitude, like gratitude for the shade, gratitude for the oxygen it is making, gratitude for being so beautifully patient and offering fruit or nuts or whatever. And start there. It could also be a flower. Maybe when you come out of your house, like, look what is there. Like, is there grass? Is there a stone or a rock? Maybe there's a feather. So instead of just walking past, start saying hi. Hi. Yeah. I see you. Hey, you are so beautiful. And then maybe touch it. Like, what does it feel like? Is it rough? Is it soft? Is it, does it have thorns? The other day I was hiking here in the jungle and I started sliding down in my boots, and I quickly grabbed a tree, and the tree was full of thorns. I'm like, what else is possible here? But it's like, still the tree was there too. I was stupid that I didn't have any protection on my hands, but the tree helped me, right? So, like, look around what is there that is right in your backyard, and start making contact. Yeah. It's like E.T., like, make contact.
Yeah, that's right. And it's interesting because when, let's see, who was I speaking with? In one of these other with Susie, I think, a couple of weeks ago. And we were talking about, I was saying, or having this realization, which maybe is obvious to everyone, but for me, it just really struck me that, this whole notion of fear, it wouldn't even really be possible if we didn't have physical bodies, right? So we have these physical bodies, and then we have all of these ideas, thoughts, feelings, emotions, all these ideas about how we have to protect it and keep it alive forever and make sure it doesn't get hurt, and that, nothing goes wrong with it. And through all those things, we create fear, right? Whether it's social fear, mental fear, emotional fear, physical reactive fight or flight response fear, and it's all around this body. And when we're with nature, we can be on the level of the being. We can be so easily with nature, And then what I wonder about are those places where we start to have fear or apprehension or uneasiness around sitting in the grass, around, you know, touching a plant we don't know, about being near an animal that we're not familiar with, right? All these things where we create fear, even like right now, even viruses, right? I mean, that's nature too. Bacterium, you know, viruses, these are all also part of nature. And they're parts that as human beings, I think we, you know, we become very fearful of. And then sometimes it's that thing of like, well, I don't want any nature, right? Like lock it all out. So that thing of recognizing that sometimes the tree that we try to grab onto will have thorns, but it doesn't mean it's a bad tree, right? How do we start to relax the mind and relax that physical fear response to let those barriers come down? You said, you know, it's really about lowering those barriers, but what are some of the ways that you like to practice lowering those barriers?
Yeah, that's a great question. So as an example, and I'm just talking right now about Costa Rica because right now I'm here and I have spent a lot of time here, but we can also talk about Wisconsin where I live the rest of the year. But let's say as an example, I went running and all of a sudden I started thinking about snakes. And it's right now with these tools of access consciousness, I have learned, and now I know, wow, what am I actually aware of, and what is my body aware of? What if the first step we can take is trusting our bodies? So I'm like, wow, what is this? Like, body, what awareness are you giving me right now? And so what I chose then is I talked to a lot of the locals, like what snakes are here. So I went and tried to like learning about it. What snakes are here? What can I meet? Where are they living? So learning about nature, because this is an environment that I didn't grow up like Mowgli. I grew up in Berlin in a big city, right? So what can I learn about nature here and who is here? And also what is communicating with me and my body. So then on this run that I was on, like it didn't take long and I saw this beautiful, like this big orange bracelet on the road. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's a pretty bracelet. Bent down and wanted to touch it. In the last minute, I realized it was dead. It was a dead snake, a tiny, not a good one. The tiny snakes are not really the ones that you want to pick up. But my body was amazing. I was jumping. My body was jumping 2 meters backwards, like, boom. It's like, wow, I had no idea we can jump like this, you know? And so that part of trusting, like it was the snake also that gave me the information. Hey, I'm here. So what I'm doing now when I'm going out and about, because there are Komodo dragons, there are kinds of like all kinds of reptiles and animals here, I say, hey guys, I'm not here to hurt you. Stay out of my way. If I come too close, give me a signal, send me information, and I will go around you. And so when I start picking things up, thinking of jaguar or whatever, it's like, okay, where are you? And can I continue the trail? I ask questions, right? What's it going to create when I continue this trail? Or do I go back around? And sometimes I keep walking and it's fine. Might have been a traveler going past. And sometimes I turn around. It's really the greatest gift and also the greatest love we can have for our bodies and ourselves is awareness.
Yeah. And to trust, right. So that's trusting that knowing. We've talked about that on this show as well. You know, just trusting that knowing. We talk about self-love, but you know, that can have all kinds of weird convolutions and distortions and things tied into it. And yet almost more in a simpler and more pure sense, it's almost like how much are we willing to tap into what we know and then actually trust that knowing, listen to the whispers, and acknowledge that that there's something, that there could be something there, and be willing to be, you know, right about it, wrong about it, and not have a point of view about it, but build that trust in yourself so that you're not always trying to chase answers from outside and, you know, have things reflected back to tell you what is, but actually be willing to see the world as it is for you. So here we are, acknowledging nature, acknowledging what's possible on the planet. I know that one of your favorite things is, you know, what joy, right? What joy can I spread and create beyond anything that I can imagine? And I know that that you have wonderful capacities with nature. I mean, your art is, to me, just intoxicating when I see, and you're prolific. So when I see your new creations coming out, whether it's on fabric or whether it's on canvas, well, I guess that's fabric too, but whether it's, you know, hung or worn, you really are capturing these moments, right? It's like these moments of beauty and glory inspired by the natural world. And everything that I've seen you do or create has that energy. And then even your way of being. I mean, just the way that you present in the world. You know, I loved following along when you had the frog living in your studio over the winter, right? I mean, that's such a beautiful thing. You didn't own it. You didn't force him to be there, you know, and yet there he was. And how wonderful was that? So it's like the nature seems to also follow you as you appreciate it out in the world. So is this something that has always been a part of your life, or have you, over time, have you begun to step into this expression of who you are in the world?
Well, I was lucky that growing up in Berlin, which is a huge city, my grandparents had a garden, and they had created this garden for my mom. So she would, during World War II, would have food, fresh food to eat. So I grew up in that garden, and I was sitting underneath apple trees and picking plums and cherries and planting, you know, strawberries and flowers. And so that was right there. And wow, how did I get so lucky? And so the connection to nature was always there. And then I also had, as a kid, I had fears like the deep forest. We went to Austria, into the mountains, and up there, you know, I was a city girl, so there was like only the wind that goes through pine trees. And if you ever have heard that noise, it's like, wow, it's very mysterious and mystical. And I'm like, wow, what is this? And then I knew, and I heard there are bears around. So I was like a little apprehensive, right? So I was not really like totally relaxed. And also my mom was sort of scared that something would happen to us and all that. So then later on, that is something that I let go of. And now I can be in the dark, out in nature, and although here, I would say if I went in the dark in the jungle, I would be a little apprehensive too, which is also a smartness. We don't want to be like tapping into stupidity and exposing ourselves like, I don't know, living with the panthers or something, because they are wild animals. And so it's about, okay, do we go now? What do we do? What do we choose? And what is it going to create if I choose this? So it's something that I grew into, and then of course also using the amazing tools of access consciousness about what we're with running bars and the body processes and the clearings and all the tools where we actually gain more and more awareness. And I'm really curious how much more aware we all can be, and of everything, where there are whispers that I might not pick up on yet, right? It's like, what whispers are around me? What is nature saying? What are the birds saying? And what is there that I have not tapped into yet? And so this is it's an ongoing adventure. And the more curious and the more joyful we are, literally the birds, they sing more when we are joyful.
Yeah.
And I love the Italians that are now singing with each other from the windows, the open windows. And it's like that energy where this is also nature. What is actually our true nature? Is it the fearful being, the one that wants to, like, what is it creating if we lock ourselves inside? And is that actually trusting our bodies? Like, literally, like, it's what is it all creating? Whereas when we lower the barriers and we are more aware and we embrace our body's knowing and our knowing, what can that create? Because our body will give us signals. Like, I get the chills like coming up from the back of the head into my hair, and it's all standing up, and then I know, well, there is some, what is this body? Yeah, right. So our bodies give us signs and signals, which we can find out what they are. They are different for every single one of us. Mm-hmm. Or when you get this, like, all of a sudden you start out of the blue thinking of snakes, it's like, where does this come from? Hello, snake, where are you?
Yeah.
What if the snake is communicating with us, saying like, okay, I'm here, don't come any closer, I'm here, warning.
Yeah. I mean, if a few hundred years ago you tried to explain a cell phone to someone, they would think that you were crazy, right? Like, you can't talk to someone on the other side of the planet. Like, you just can't do that. And now we've found a way to actually do it, right? And we do it every day. And it sort of is that same thing of like, oh, well, we can't actually communicate with things like that. And yet, what if that's just not something that we have dialed into yet? Or maybe we have dialed into it, and yet we haven't been willing yet to, as a population, right? I mean, I'm not saying no one dials into it, but I'm saying, as a general population on the planet, there's a general sense of, oh, we don't have that ability. That's not a human ability. And yet, what if the more that we use it like a muscle, the more that we are able to pick it up and then also trust it, so that the next time when it comes, we get it much quicker or more easily, or the frequency is like, the volume's turned up a little bit louder.
Totally. It is a muscle that if we choose to, we can build. And the more we also acknowledge our own talents and gifts of like communing and communicating with everything around us, the more there will be. It's going to be faster, more instantaneous, and it is a muscle. And we will learn that, wow, I actually knew this was going to occur. I knew it. And so that acknowledgement, wow, I actually know stuff. What else? What else can I know? What else can I be aware of? And what else is trying to communicate with me? And if you just sit still by a tree and ask the tree, what do you know about me? What do you know about the earth? What is there that you have been trying to give to me? Like, and I'm so sorry I couldn't receive it, but what can I receive now? It's amazing what can show up. And it's like, then we need to be aware, of course, what is showing up. Because it might be a rock that has a heart shape, or a rock that is just to anybody else it would look ordinary, but to you, Rebecca, it looks like, oh my God, this is the most precious rock. I just need to touch it. Like, it's the gifting, or there's a feather, or something is sparkling, or all of a sudden you see that there are these beautiful dewdrops on the flower petals and they are glistening, or the particles in the air are freezing because it's so cold, and everything is glistening in the snow. Like, it's like a fairyland. And when we start acknowledging that, rather than saying, oh, it's so cold, it's horrible, I cannot go outside. No, it's like, what is there for me to receive? You will discover that the snow is never white.
Yeah.
that there is purple and pink and blue and turquoise and green, and that alone, and you keep asking questions like, what else is there that I have never acknowledged? The magical journey is also already started for you.
Yes, and I think that is such a great point, because I get that there are people, and they may, or you watching this, right? This may or may not be you, but there are people who might think like, oh, what do you mean sit next to a tree? That feels silly, or it's just a tree. And yet, what's so beautiful about this is that there are all these different possibilities of how we can play with this, right? Because even if it just feels too strange to go and really just hug that tree, or really just tap into it, or connect with it, or or see all the colors of the snowflakes, right? Even just going and you sit under the tree, and you just allow yourself to breathe the oxygen that the tree is creating. Like, our scientific rational brain, we get that, like, we can be like, okay, that I can start there, and I can just breathe, and I can let out my carbon dioxide, and that I'm going to gift that to the tree. And like, okay, now we have something that we are gifting and receiving from one another. And even if you just sit there and you breathe, and you just allow your sympathetic nervous system to just take a break for a moment, like, even just right there, it's already creating a different experience, a different possibility, a different reality. And then from there, then it gets kind of fun too, of how willing would you be from there to be like, okay, so all right, I was willing to let my barriers down enough to just exchange these gases with this tree. And now, what would I be willing, where would I be willing to let the barriers down even just a little bit more? Like, would I be willing to take my shoes off, or would I be willing to maybe lie down, or maybe even I'm just sitting here, maybe I just put my hand on it, right? Like, what is the
Yes.
next step for each of us, even if it doesn't look the same for anyone. And we just, I think the big thing is that judgment, right? Where do we judge ourselves? Where do we judge others, right? Like, oh, that kook loving that tree. Well, if that's our judgment, then we will never give ourselves permission to even see what that experience
the beautiful, one of the beautiful things that I learned in the middle of New York City. I was living in a place, I had a tiny room that was facing First Avenue, and I was right at a traffic light. So a lot of car noise, and the fire trucks, it felt as if they were going through my room, right? And so, but I had learned from one of my yoga teachers that what if every noise that comes at you is an expression of love? And so I used that, and I applied it to the fire truck, like the sirens and all that. And I was smiling. It changed. It's like it changed the perception. And tractor noise and loud motorcycles. What if everything is an expression of love? And the birds. Some people say the birds are too loud. They are singing too loud, and the blue jays are horrible. And what if everything is an expression of love that is trying to reach towards us? So you can play. Those who are watching, play with this and see what it can change for you, where we don't go to judgment, and we don't go to the stress and whatever point of view we are choosing, but we receive it all and have no point of view about it, but just let it go through. I had the best time in this tiny room. It changed everything for me. And it's just like, it's a tiny, like turning something like by 180 degrees, right? Just turn it and shift it.
Yeah, and that's that piece, right? Choice creates. That's that choice. Would you be willing to choose something today that's different than anything you've chosen before? And what could that create probably have no idea because you haven't chosen it before. And would you be
Right.
willing to go on that adventure? So
Yeah,
I,
and maybe nobody told you. Nobody told you, like, this is actually a great gift that art is. Art allowed me to learn to observe. So when, like, as an example, start looking at what gives your brain the information that this is an oak leaf. What is it actually? Look at that leaf, look at the shape, look at the form, the curves, whatever, or grass, or a bird. Like, look at the feathers, and it will change how you can receive it. You know, look at your cat. Like, wow, what are actually the paws of a kitty? Like, what makes them be so soft and velvety that I don't even hear it? And that, like, really paying attention and looking at things.
yeah, curiosity and wonder. And I remember the first time that the first real art class that I took. And I remember looking at this still life or looking at a human body or looking at something that I was drawing. And I remember I would just sit there and I'd be like, you know, like I can't see it. Like I'm looking at it, but where does it start? Where does it actually end? Where are the lines? What are the shadows? Where the and you realize like, oh, it's like it's so there and not really there, and there's so many things that we just fill in the blanks. We just assume what it looks like. And I love when you were describing that, like, what does the leaf really look like? Because the first time you really want to draw a hand or you want to draw someone's face, and suddenly you realize that you've never really ever seen it before. Like you didn't realize, you know, or you draw a bunch of bodies and you realize, wow, I never realized that bodies do this, or I never realized how many differences one particular part of a body can have between individuals or from one side to the next. So all those places where we just assume, right, and we plug in what we think it is, look at how much we're actually missing instead of having that curiosity to see, oh, what is the gift of this particular expression, of this person, of this thing, of this, you know, situation. So I love that from that's the artist's eye. So I'm so happy that you brought that into the conversation. Now I see we're getting about towards the end, but before we close, I do want to put a link to your books in the show notes. So those of you who are watching, we will have her websites as well as the books listed in there. And in addition, we also have a special bonus. So if you want to tell people what that is.
Yes, I would like to offer you a bonus gift. I have a shop on Etsy. So for all of you who would like to purchase one of my prints or an original painting, I'm offering you 10% off. There will be a code that we will be posting.
Yes, in the link.
You just enter,
in the show notes. Mm-hmm.
Right. You just enter the code at checkout and you receive the bonus, the gift.
Yay! I love it. And again, when you see the creations, if you're not familiar with Bettina's work at this point, when you see the vibrance and the vitality and this sense of the gift of nature, you'll get a whole other perspective on what it is that we've been talking about as well. I really, for me personally, I feel your art, right? Like it gives me physical sensation in my body when I see your work and the colors, and they just to me are just such an invitation to exactly what we're talking about here. So if you're a visual person, you'll maybe get a whole different download of what we've been talking about today just by looking at some of that artwork.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So to close, is there anything else that you would like to share or put out there for our viewers today on this topic?
You know, when there is, here in Costa Rica, when there is a mudslide or a volcano erupts, it's pretty much when you think about the natural environment just around there, where animals had their dwellings, where like trees were growing and had their roots, and all of a sudden they are all going down the river and tumbling down and being in a different location. It could be like, if we looked at it from our perspective, it's a catastrophe, right? And so do they actually see it as a catastrophe? Do they have points of view? Do they lock themselves in and they say, I never gonna put my roots ever in the soil again or something? It's like, or do the birds stop singing? They don't. And so what I would like to invite you all is, when you get the sense of maybe sadness or depression, I invite you to go out into nature and to just be out there and just breathe. You don't even have to touch a tree, but look around you, look at the colors that are there, and place your hands on your body, maybe on your heart or whatever, or on your feet, and you sit on the ground and just breathe. Just be there and see what this can change for you. Never give up.
Yes, I
Never give
love
up.
it. Never give up. That's right. Every day, you never know also what adventures lie right around the corner, and what can be changed with the next choice that we make and the next gift that we allow ourselves to receive. So thank you so much for joining me today, and thank you all for watching. We really appreciate your energy here as well. And so that's it for today. We have, I believe, one more episode in this series, so you will see that next week. And until then, I wonder what we'll discover next. Thank you so much for being here. Goodbye, everyone.